IR. He'll continue to rehab and recover. When his season begins, it'll be in Chicago.
With Cody Glass, it appears with the injuries that you have, it appears he's going to make the roster. What did you think of his camp and making it a decision that he can stay?
Well, I think with Cody, just continued improvement. I think really go back to standing here 3 years ago. It's just been a real positive, steady progression for Cody. I think that his preseason was he had the opportunity in preseason to show his strengths, the things that he's good at. I think he's earned a lot of respect from the veteran players, and the coaches get the opportunity to see his game. I talked about it before camp began, how valuable last season was for him in terms of the different types of experiences that he was able to enjoy. And now with some injuries, that potentially gives more opportunities. So, last night was a chance for him to play with two real good players. He's able to do that. He's shown that through preseason. So, the deadline tomorrow, all teams comply, but it's in a lot of respects pretty artificial because it can change 24 hours later, right? So I think we've seen that just over the past two seasons, and you see it around the NHL. But opening day is still opening day, and being part of that opening day roster is pretty special for a first-year player. Again, that's between now and tomorrow afternoon. It's there's 8 remaining. It's possible. We had 5 players really fighting for positions on our back end. Now we're down to 2, and I guess still to be determined if we open with 7 or with 8.
What specifically with Nicholas Waugh? You kind of see his fit on the roster with the way it's constructed right now.
Well, Nick Waugh for me has improved as time has gone on here this month, and really pretty much what we expected he was going to do. So I think that he's a good two-way player. He's smart. He's got good size. He's a center. He's represented himself well here, I think. Well, that situation with those players is pretty fluid, and again, over the course of the next 6 months, that could present itself any variety of ways. I think Nick's last 2 games for me, he's looked confident. He's used his size and his reach effectively, and sometimes players like that. The more reps they get with the higher pace, you adapt, and I think that he's showing he's got that ability.
Another position battle that's kind of gone on is that third line spot, and Zikov and Fury both played really well. Can you talk about what you saw from them this offseason and how that goes?
Well, Brandon Peary for me is a known quantity. He's shown the ability to be able to play in any of the skill positions. He's got a great shot. He's been able to score. Valentin Zikov, probably a little more of an unknown in eyes of yourselves or our fans. And I think he's earned a ton of respect based on living here year-round, training. He's in great shape. I think that he's played really well in the preseason. I thought that the game that Peary and Zikov played together, I believe it was in Colorado, they played really well together. And then, of course, last night we're together again. So they've both impressed. They've played well through the preseason.
Obviously, it's Galant's decision for how the lines are going to roll. How did you like those two with Stastny? He's kind of able to elevate their offensive play.
Well, it gives you, a great veteran between 2 younger guys, and I thought there was real value for both Zikov and Peary in that setting. And as I said, Peary and Zikov have had some time together in the preseason where they, I thought, played really well and had pretty good chemistry. So, they did fine. They did fine. Well, last night was a pretty competitive game for preseason, and sometimes preseason games aren't that. But certainly, last night's game was competitive. I thought that Z played real well, played real hard, didn't take a backward step all night, and he was in the battle. He played a really good game, I thought.
As we go forward here, we've seen around the league the goalie tandem, I guess, is sort of more in vogue, splitting that workload a little bit more. Obviously, Mark Andre did a lot last year. What's the ideal split for you? What do you want to see kind of going forward, I guess, between the two of them?
Yeah, those we won't attach any numbers to it, I don't think, as we head into the season. Those will be discussions with management, coaching staff as we go along. But, we're cognizant of that and confident in both guys. And ideally, we want to manage that position so we've got both guys at the top of their game. That's ideally how we want that to look, and we'll manage it accordingly. Were you here 2 years ago when we sent Jason Garrison to the minors and kept Brad Hunt? Do you think that's going to have any impact on what we do? None.
What's your take on the rivalry with the Sharks? Is it good to have a rival that the games are a little bit more intense?
Well, when you play a team in playoffs, they become a rival. So LA that first year, I think that heightened the rivalry with that team. San Jose, we've played now twice, so I think it heightens the rivalry with that team. So it adds something to the mix. I think anytime that you play that following year against a team you played in the playoffs.
Tomorrow is obviously the 2-year anniversary of October 1. What are your memories from that day and kind of your thoughts on the event your team's putting on tomorrow with the close practice?
Well, tomorrow is the anniversary, of course, and yet in a lot of respects, it feels like yesterday is the anniversary because of the similarities where we played San Jose, that final Sunday, 5 o'clock game, and of course, everything that happened there after it. We're proud to be able to do our part tomorrow with recognizing first responders, and I think when you look at the history of this franchise, it was pretty meaningful how that tragedy really gave this organization a chance to, do their part and really galvanized, I think, the players with the people of Las Vegas.
A lot of us have, I guess, in the media focused on the Pacific Division. What are your thoughts on the division? Do you feel like it's stronger this year?
Well, it's so hard to predict. It really is, and I generally, before the year starts, take a guess at who I think the 8 teams will be that get in. I haven't been right yet. So probably the only difference between me and you guys is I admit it. And it's hard to win. It's hard to win, and there's just a whole bunch of things that go into it. And when I look at the Pacific Division, in a word, I see improvement. I see improvement everywhere. Is what I see. So, I have a lot of respect for all of the teams in the Pacific Division, and I guess at the end of the day, we only worry about one team in the Pacific Division, and that's our own. So we need to make sure we're ready to go. We need to make sure we're ready to go. I think your record within the division is important. I know that our first year, our record in the Pacific was really strong. And was a big help for us. So, those divisional games matter a lot, but none of them are easy. I had a guy tell me last year we were talking, and he said, if you're going through the schedule trying to find the easy game and you can't find it, you're probably it. So that's yeah, exactly. So no, it's a hard league to win in, and we're respectful of all those teams. The Central's, it's they're hard games. It's the way it is, the way you expect it to be, the way it should be.
Kelly, you touched back
after last night's game, that can amplify things for a preseason opener. Would you rather see the players be so anxious to get back on the ice, or can tomorrow act as a good buffer to maybe take their minds off things and then ease into the season opener without carrying all that anger and emotion into the game?
Yeah, I don't think that, I don't think it would have any bearing. I think all teams, kind of look at the end of preseason as getting to the finish line, and whether they were 5-2 or 2-5. Of course, it doesn't matter, and there's just such a different level of excitement, which you guys will see in the level of play when we get to the regular season. But I think what tomorrow is just an opportunity to understand real life and give perspective and show gratitude to some real special people in our city. So.
How do you feel about the number of preseason games? You comfortable with the 7 games before the regular season?
Yeah, it's mandated that it's between 6 and 8, and I think it's served us well. We play one right away, so training camp effectively is 2 days long, and we play on the third day. So I think that's a good chance for us to get some younger players into games. And then as our games, like ideally, you like your preseason games to be situations where your lineups are similar, because then you can evaluate, which is ultimately what you're trying to do. So I felt that that's what we had in the preseason. The only game where likely one lineup was stronger than the other was our home game against Colorado, and all they did was beat us. So that's how that can work sometime. But I think that the coaches need certain things at the end of the preseason, which you can tell by the lineups. Management, scouting staffs need certain things in the earlier stages of preseason, and the players themselves. Depending on who you are. We needed Valentin Zikov needed some games. We needed to see what he could do. A veteran player, you try to back off a little bit if you can, in terms of their usage. If there's any nagging injuries that you wouldn't even bat an eye about during regular season, well, in the preseason you'll keep a guy out just so that you can head into the regular season as healthy as possible.
How important is it to this team that the solid camp that so many of these youngsters have had, that you now have that comfort feeling that you know that if you need to call a player up from Chicago, that they're ready to go?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I'm real comfortable, and I think that it would depend on what caused the reason for the call-up, which player up top was hurt or not able to play, and not to take away from some of the older players we sent to Chicago earlier that I think have good call-up utility as well. They I thought had good camps too. So the Curtis McKenzie's, the Patrick Browns, the Gage Quinneys, I think those guys, Jacob Magna, there's guys like that I think could be call-up players for us also. And then certainly from a prospect standpoint, I think we got a lot of guys that, depending on circumstances, could play NHL games.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Well,